Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome all the leadership board members, staff members, and my dear brothers and sisters of Sri Sathya University for Human Excellence. We are so fortunate to have two speakers for this session. Today's speakers need no introduction. They are the members of our Sai family. They keep visiting our campuses, especially during the Swami's arrival, helping us throughout. Our first speaker is Krishna Akka. She needs no introduction. An alumni of Sri Sathya University for Human of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus. Krishna Akka did her undergraduation in commerce and pursued a corporate career as a techie in Oracle for close to a decade and a half. Hailing from a family of Sai devotees, Krishna Akka practiced the principle of servitude right from our childhood. While working at the Oracle, she also served as a volunteer in Medical Record Division of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning Sciences, Whitefield. Upon divine command, she moved to Muddenahalli in the year 2015 and has been working as a trustee of the Each One Educate One Foundation and is the administrative manager of the Prashanti Balamandira Trust. Swami lovingly addresses her as the gang leader as she is an exemplary alumni. Today, Akka will be speaking on the topic Each One Educate One. We would love to hear from you, Akka. Over to you.
Sairam Amrita. Sairam to
Sairam Akka, you can.
Yeah, Sairam to everyone. Okay, we're having some technical issues here. I'll come. Sairam everyone, can you hear me, Amrita?
Yes, Akka, we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you for that great introduction. Amrita, I would like you to introduce Brother Sunil Narang, who will take us through the presentation about the Each One Educate One Foundation. I will come at the end. Okay, so just go ahead and introduce Brother Sunil, and then he will give the presentation.
Okay. Sunil Narang sir, an alumni of Sri Sathya Sai Higher Secondary School and Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Patti and Vrindavan. He did his bachelor's in BCom and graduated in MBA. He had 25 years of great experience in the field of textiles and branded apparel, manufacturing and exports. Last, he worked as the vice president in the UB group, leading the branded apparel and footwear business from Bangalore. Currently, he is serving as a trustee in the Each One Educate One Foundation since October 2017. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Sairam, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. And it's a great privilege, actually, to be able to have this session with you all and to share some of my thoughts and also some interesting points about Each One Educate One, the program that we all are together a part of. So briefly, let me share a thought where, today as a member of Each One Educate One Foundation, being involved in the education mission that Swami has so graciously continued from here. I am reminded of my days from 82 to 92, when, like you all, I was a student then and a beneficiary of this very same education mission that Swami had established in 1969 itself, actually. I think Krishna sister relates to the 1969 start because it began with the women's college. And then subsequently in the 70s, the men's college started in Vrindavan. Of course, I joined the school in Puttaparthi only in 1982. And I was lucky to spend 10 years at Swami's lotus feet, undergoing my education. When I say education, it is not just the academic education that we were given there, but more importantly, the education that we received from Swami himself. So yeah, that's one very big similarity that we all share, except for the fact that this was about 4 decades ago. But we are all beneficiaries of Swami's education system, Swami's education mission. And today, I find myself on the on a different side of the same mission, which is not specifically studying in the institution, in the college or the school per se, but nevertheless continuing my studies under Swami's spiritual guidance. Again, we share another interesting similarity, all of us, which is that all of you and us, all of us, including Krishna sister, we are all students even today of that same wonderful Paravidya that Swami is imparting. So we are again all in the same class, so to say. And I can very confidently admit that all of you are way ahead, when it comes to that, and we are the ones lagging behind. But nevertheless, it's wonderful to share the same kind of brotherhood or sisterhood, where we were also beneficiaries once upon a time. We continue to be beneficiaries even now, along with you, and continue to learn some of the same lessons together at Swami's lotus feet. And that's a very wonderful feeling. Coming to the Each One Educate One initiative, what is very special and interesting for many like me is that we get a wonderful opportunity to come together again, be a part of the same education system and the mission, but with an altered role, if I may to put it that way. So yeah, we don't really spend our 8 hours in the classroom like you do, or 6 hours, but yeah, we are still very much in the class, so to say, but may not be in a typical classroom inside the college building, but we are still very much playing a role in that same mission, and that is very interesting for us in spreading the message far and wide about what Swami wants to realize. He's already realized it, he's already seen the outcome, but realized through all of us also is the spread of this mission, the spread of his message, and the way he would like education to be in our country. So at the Each One Educate One Foundation, it's been a great learning experience again over the last 4 to 5 years, where we have understood so many new facets and aspects about education, minus the syllabus or the syllabi that we all went through. So I will, like Krishna sister said, I will take you through these few slides about what we present, or what we actually not just present, but what we actually represent to the world outside in terms of the education mission that we are all a part of. So allow me a few seconds to just share my screen. Okay, so some technical difficulties that Krishna sister helped me to sort out. Thank you. I hope you are able to see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we will just go through these slides to get a better idea. Uh, Actually, you're all part of the system. You are, in fact, inside the system. And what we try to do is to speak about that and to represent that factually. Also, within a certain context. And that context, of course, is, the education system that we have in our country. We have the private schools and the private institutions which are imparting education on a commercial basis for profit. And then we have the public education system, which is run largely by the government or through some schools that they aid. But then when we talk about the public education system, uh, at a very macro level, if you look at some of those uh, clippings that are there on the slide, you will see that the budgetary allocation for education as a nation itself is below what is the recommended level. So it's around 3.8%, whereas for a country of our size and population, ideally it should be 6% at least or higher. The government runs schools all across the country, and at the primary level, that is from grades 1 to 5, the enrollment of students is fairly good. It is 99%, as we see. That is what the statistics say in that age group. And one major reason for that is that the families and the parents who are working or toiling away in the fields or taking up other vocations or jobs, for them this is a good way to send their children to school, where they are taken care of and they are also given a midday meal. And that is one big attraction for them to send their children to school. But like you would all know by now, meal in the middle of the day is not the best way to go about imbibing education. And most of the children go there empty stomach, and that is what Annapurna is changing in a big way in our country today. But otherwise, most of these children, they go to school for that midday meal. They sit through their classes hungry, and they barely imbibe what they are supposed to in terms of learning. So that's one major drawback out there. And what happens by the time they complete their grade 5 is that 57% of them drop out of school. So they don't continue into higher primary or into secondary school. And in that 57% that drop, in the remaining 43%, in the 57% that attend secondary school, the attendance level is as poor as 58%. So there is no real learning that is happening out there, So that is the problem we face at the secondary level in our country. And then by the time they are ready to go to college, only 28% of them finally attend college, and 27% of them are boys, and it's only 1% of the women who actually continue into college. So that's the kind of statistics we have in our country. Another major problem that you have also heard of by now several times, Swami himself has mentioned it in many of his talks, is that there is a paucity of teachers in our country. And also there is an inadequacy when it comes to qualifications and quality of education imparted. So overall, if we look at the stats again, we have a shortage of about 1.1 million teachers. That's 11 lakhs teachers across the country. And 60% of this, 69% of this shortage is in the rural areas, which is where we are operating today. And amongst these, there are about 1.1 lakh schools with only one teacher. So it's a single teacher school, and the teacher does everything, from being the headmaster to the maths teacher to English teacher to Kannada teacher, everything all in one. So that teacher is the one single teacher in a school, and that's about 110,000 schools there. Qualifications again are a major problem, where at the elementary level, 11 lakh teachers out of 66 lakhs are actually not qualified for what they are doing. At the secondary level, it's again 2.8 lakh teachers out of 20 lakh teachers, almost 15%. Now, when we come to higher education, which is at the university level, there is a shortage of 6,500 qualified teachers. So that is as far as the teacher's qualification is concerned. The problem is that large. And then, of course, we have this very skewed pupil-teacher ratio across the nation, where the prescribed ratio is 30:1. That is 30 students for one teacher. But there are 22% of them at the primary level, where the PTRs are higher. So one teacher is taking care of many more students than just 30. And at secondary and higher secondary levels, this ratio goes up to as high as about 45, 47, So that is another problem that we face. Now, what is the problem? What are the underlying factors leading to this situation? What we saw are all the symptoms actually. And what is the underlying cause for it? One is that there has been a drop in average teacher salaries across the country. Second is that women, now let me just mention one small fact here again. About 50% of the teachers in our country are women. Now, what's happened is that women also today have many other career options, and therefore, teaching is not something that is on the top of their list. And of course, we don't have a very robust recruitment process in the public education system. So, all this that we are talking about is largely in the public education system. Of course, when we talk of premier institutions like IIMs and IITs, which are also government aided institutions, even there we have shortages in faculty. For example, in IITs, there is a shortage of 1,800 in the faculty. And then in the IIMs, 6 of them in the country, they are running short of about 100 teachers. And these are premier institutions of our nation. You know, they are some of the top colleges that students, even from private institutions, aspire to join. So there also the situation is similar. Maybe the numbers are a bit smaller. Oh, what does the future look like, you know, when it comes to teachers? So with the current situation, in 15 years, it is expected that 30% of the current workforce will have to be replaced. However, there aren't enough aspirants. So there are not many who want to really pick a teaching profession as their career option. So this is one major problem that we face in the system, which is also something that Swami is addressing through our education mission. And that is one of his prime goals, to develop a teaching workforce of qualified teachers. And for Swami, the qualification doesn't end with your maths, physics, and chemistry. And that's the reason why we have a university which is called University for Human Excellence, where both the secular knowledge and the spiritual knowledge are acquired by the teachers, and they should be tomorrow's teaching force in the country. So given the background that we saw in the first 2 slides, these are some of the issues that we face. You know, this is a summary slide which tells us about all the issues. So only 10% of the schools satisfy the norms of teacher availability and infrastructure. For those of you who have been through the public education system, you would have actually experienced this also. And then only 9.5% of rural schools actually provide free education in the full sense of it. So there's some charges or the other that are levied on students. Only 10% of them are completely free of cost. Teaching quality, like we saw, is of course poor. And then there is teacher absenteeism, insufficient resources, both in terms of teachers and other educational materials. The curricula itself, there are structural issues in the curricula, because of which what really happens in these schools is that, to put it in very colloquial terms, what happens is mugging up, basically. So there is really no grasp or understanding of the subjects, but it is more about just mugging things up like a parrot and then vomiting them into the examination paper. High dropout rates is again something that we saw in the first slide. From primary to secondary, it drops to about 57%. And the learning outcomes are, of course, poor because of all these reasons. And then the gender inequality is also a major problem, which again Swami is addressing in a very big way. And what happens is that even those students who are interested, who have the potential, they cannot switch over to a private school because they come from families that cannot afford private education. So that is one more major challenge. So they are stuck with this system, even though they are capable of much more. Actually, every child for that matter has the potential and is capable of much more. But then meager incomes is what prevents them from accessing quality education. And that's again something that Swami is addressing through our education system. And with all these problems that are there, nobody is really looking into the values side of education, which is our prime focus here. But there, with all those other issues that they are facing, nobody is really even bothered about that. Although the government talks about it, the education policy talks about it, but when it comes to implementation, when it comes to actually practicing that, I could very confidently say that we are perhaps the only institution in the country who is able to roll this out and implement it in our day-to-day education system. So this again is a slide which tells us how, with the Sathya Sai Lokaseva Gurukulam and the Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence, in coordination with the Each One Educate One Foundation and of course Prashanti Balamandira Trust also, how we are able to address all those issues. See, our schools, like you all know, you are all studying in them. They are all in rural geographies, deep inside the rural hinterlands, not anywhere near a large town or a city. And of course, we are a Gurukulam, and our entire system is a Gurukula system of education. But when it comes to infrastructure and facilities, there is absolutely no compromise. We have the best of the best. Our student-teacher ratios are very healthy, much better than what is expected, much more preferred than what is prescribed. We have a good pass percentage, and it's not long before we consistently are at the 100% pass mark. I mean, it's just a matter of time, and we will be there consistently. When we talk about curriculum, Swami has now made it so very flexible and so very interesting for all our students by switching to NIOS, where all of us as students, we have a wider choice of subjects, and we can pursue our interests according to our aptitude, according to our likings, and according to our potential and our expertise, or our what shall we say, our area of excellence, So that is one major flexibility that is afforded to all our students, and that's not easy to come by. Even if we were to go in for free education with scholarships, this is not a flexibility that you can avail of in any other institution so easily. Of course, education is completely free of cost. The quality of education is comparable to the best. And most importantly, like Swami has stressed, there is a very, very great focus on Paravidya, on values-based education, holistic education, where a student develops an all-round integrated personality. You know it better, you understand it better, because you're all work in progress as far as that is concerned. And the best part of it is that this particular mission, this particular intervention does not stop with secondary school. Now, one thing that you would have noticed, I'm sure all of you would have caught that point, that in the primary level, in the public education system, the enrollment is as high as 99%, but it drops drastically thereafter. And that is where our education system comes in and plugs the gap. It bridges the gap completely, because our education system starts from higher primary onwards and then goes on to secondary, higher secondary, and university. So once a child is in, once a student is in the system, they can continue all the way to university, which I think nearly 400 of you are already experiencing. You all are aware of the campuses we have all across Karnataka, and then one in Telangana and one in Tamil Nadu. So this is just a fact that has been stated out there. But what is interesting is that how rapidly this expansion has happened, and that shows the urgency, that Swami has, and Swami has expressed this. I'm sure you've heard it in some discourses in Premamritam, when Swami has been asked, why are you going at such a fast pace, and expanding and adding campuses so quickly? Why not stabilize the ones that we have, consolidate, and then add? And to that, Swami's response is that it's not about adding campuses or buildings or institutions, but it is about reaching out to that one child in that particular area or district who would otherwise miss the opportunity this year. So that's the focus. That's how sharp Swami's focus is, that he focuses on every individual child. And that is what drives the system. And that understanding, that in-depth, I would say, empathy, to feel what that child would otherwise miss out in life, is what is actually the fundamental basis for this whole thing. That is what drives this whole thing, that feeling of empathy, that feeling of love and compassion, which Swami expresses through this. And the pace at which this has happened is a testimony to that. Yeah, so if we were to look at the Each One Educate One program, of course, formally, you would all remember or recollect that the foundation was established in 2017, but then the initiative began in 2013-14 itself. And like anything else, everything has a small beginning. And it began with 100 students at that point of time. A few alumni came together and they harnessed the resources required to educate 100 children. And that has gradually grown over the last 8 years. Until 2021, we have seen 3,463 children being educated in our institutions. Starting from 100 in 2013-14, it has now grown to about 3,500. So that's been the journey. And all of us together, we owe our gratitude to several people, several members from society, both alumni, non-alumni, devotees, non-devotees, all put together have made this possible. So over 11,000 children in total have benefited from this initiative that Swami began. Yeah, so we now come to the Embrace One program and the Higher Educate One program, which you may have heard of. And in case some of you are not aware, this happened in 2020, in 2019-20, when Swami guided us that the Each One Embrace One program should be launched by the Each One Educate One Foundation to take care of our brothers and sisters who come from relatively weaker sections and need support, which is not just for education, but even beyond. And that is how the Each One Embrace One program came into being. And so many more who could not have dreamt of this opportunity are able to be benefited from that program, which Swami has blessed us with. So that is the Each One Embrace One program. And then, of course, you would remember that statistic from the first slide, where we saw that only 28% of the rural adults go to college and only 1% of them are women. So straight off, of course, the program name is Each One Higher Educate One, which is for higher education in the university. But straight off, I can tell you how well we are doing, how much better we are doing than the national statistic out there, is that today at the university level, both boys and girls, both of you need to pay attention. Our girl students outnumber the boys in the university. And the ratio is 1.6:1. So you can imagine, that's the national statistic you see out there on your slide. And what is the fact in our own institution, in our own university, is completely and diametrically, opposite. Our girl students in the university are more than the boy students. And that's something that is very commendable. And we owe our thanks and gratitude to Swami and the system. And also congratulations to our girl students, all the sisters in the university, for opting to, continue your education and turn the national statistics around, in this way, which is wonderful. So that's the summary of whatever we are doing now, which is the 3 programs that Swami has guided us and blessed us with. One is the Each One Educate One program from grade 6 to 12, which is taking care of all the education needs of our students. And then, of course, we have the Each One Embrace One program that I just spoke about, which takes care of all the needs, whether it's education and everything else. And of course, at the university level, across the board, everything, all the needs are met and taken care of. And it's so wonderful, actually, to be a part of something like this. And I'm sure, I'm very, very sure that the feelings that we have in our hearts as alumni from 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I'm sure those feelings are, in fact, much, much, much stronger in all of you. And there is not even an iota of, I wouldn't even use the word doubt. There is not even a thought when it comes to, when it comes to being very sure that Swami's vision and dream that he has for the country and for the education system, it is all of you who are going to, going to be able to actually see this manifesting and materializing on the ground with Swami's grace and blessings, of course. But I'm very, very sure that every single one of you have that underlying deep feeling, that grit and that determination to take this forward in the way that Swami wants all of us to do. So I think I will pause here and hand over the baton to Sister Krishna Subhaga, and she will tell us more. Thank you very much for your patience and your attendance and your attention.
Hello, everyone. Can you just confirm that you're able to hear me? Because I'm using a different laptop.
Yes, Sathya, we are able.
Okay, yeah, thank you. One second, I'm just going to share. One second. Okay, before I share, I just wanted to also thank everyone for this opportunity that you have given me to talk about the Each One Educate One Foundation. It's been exactly a year ago when Swami appointed me as one of the trustees, and I deem it a great privilege and an opportunity to be able to give back what I received from Swami as a student in his Anantapur campus. And it's a great privilege to be able to address all of you, because you are the ones who are going to take forward this mission and take it to greater heights. Frankly speaking, when I was a student of your age, I hardly knew anything that we are talking about today. We were just enamored by Swami and his physical presence, and of course all the Paravidya that we learned at his lotus feet, but we hardly ever knew how the mission was being run. And being on the other side today, and having been given this opportunity to play a small squirrel's role, I would say. It's such an immense blessing, as well as it's inspiring to know that Swami is doing so much. And when Swami as a single individual can do so much, how much more each one of us can do if only we decide to participate in it. And that is what I want to talk to you all about today, about how you can participate, how you can also support the Each One Educate One mission. Yeah, so just like each one of you have had this immense opportunity to receive this gift of education from Swami's portals, it is also your responsibility to spread the word. Tell your family members, your neighbors, your friends, whomever you know, if there are children from rural backgrounds who want to have an opportunity at studying, but sadly, because of all the statistics and seeing the presentation that Brother Sunil gave, we know the condition of the schools in these areas, in the rural areas. So we need to get more and more children into the hallowed portals of Swami's institutions. And you all know when an opportunity is given, how much you can achieve. Each one of you know how much you have been transformed by being a part of this educational system. The number of opportunities you have, not only to succeed at the academic level, but also in the extracurricular activities, the different opportunities, the exposure that you get. For instance, the girls just returned from Delhi after performing in one of the national events. How many children get that kind of an opportunity? So it's such a wonderful system of education we have, and Swami doesn't stop anywhere. Sky is the limit for what Swami offers. And many of you also know, you have traveled abroad, you have traveled with Swami within the country. Swami doesn't stop short at anything. So it's important that you spread the word and inform everybody about this wonderful system of education that Swami has started. And as you know, as you saw in the slide that Brother Sunil pointed out, we are moving at a very fast pace. And last year, Swami, last month, in fact, Swami did the Bhumi Puja for the Kolar campus. And there is news that Swami is also going to start the Coorg campus this year. So you can imagine the pace at which he is going and the number of more students who can get this opportunity. So our request is that you inform more and more children, especially from the rural areas, to avail of this wonderful opportunity. And from the foundation itself, as you know, the presentation that we shared with you today is actually the presentation that we take to companies outside when we go and talk about the education mission to different kinds of companies. We talk to them about the issues that India has and how our institution is trying to address it. And obviously, since they are not part of our system, they obviously wonder, is it all true? Can this be true? And the only way that we can convince them is by you talking about it, you, the beneficiaries, you, the students who are now part of the system. When you share your journey, that makes it all the more convincing, which is why I invite all of you to start writing about your journey. You could write articles, you could also contribute to the quarterly E1 newsletter, you could share pictures, anything that you have done in your campus and you think that is amazing, that will impress somebody outside, please do send it to us. and we are more than happy to cover it in the website or in our quarterly newsletter. Because these are donors and companies out there, they have no visibility into what happens inside our campuses. So when you talk about it, when we present videos, when we show photographs, that is when they feel a part of it. And you can start sharing your journey. You can also, as many of you are university students, you will shortly get transitioning to different campuses as interns, or in your own campuses, if you have students from 6th grade to 12th grade, start capturing stories, because these are the ones that are so compelling, and these are the ones that we want to share with the rest of the world. So I request the university leadership team to help us with this by enabling the students, university students, to capture stories, to write articles, to share with us photos and videos. It could be just photos and videos taken on your mobiles. It need not be a professionally done one. So please do help us by writing and capturing these stories and sharing it with us. And I'm sure that will help us to share, to take this mission to the world, because we hardly ever talk about the good work that is happening. And now, very recently, Swami has granted us the permission to go and present this to everybody outside. And many more people are coming in. You will see that many more people will come and visit your campuses, come and see what life is in the campus. And these are the things that we want your help on. And the university team can contact us, and we will see how we can facilitate this. That's all we had, unless anybody has any questions.
Yes, Akka, there are some questions where our audience would like to ask you. And the first question is, what are your thoughts on CSR sponsorship for students in even?
Okay. So yes, as I briefly mentioned, November last year, Swami formed a CSR team, and as you would know, till now the Each One Educate One Foundation is run by the alumni, and most of the contributions come from alumni and their friends who may or may not be devotees. But now Swami has permitted us, he said it has been 10 years since this mission began, and we have something to showcase. We have the university, we have 26 educational campuses, and now you can go and talk to the world about the work that we are doing. And when we say that till now we have never sought corporate sponsorships, but how has this mission run? So it is quite capable to sustain it. And now it is time for the corporates to come in and do their bit. As Swami says, the 3 S's have to come together: Samaja, Sarkara, and Sanstha. So now we are going out to the Samaja and spreading the word and inviting their participation in this mission. Brother Sunil, you would like to add something?
Yeah, so this is a question which is very pertinent, very relevant, and I'm glad that somebody thought about this and asked about it. So yes, CSR is definitely one important avenue for us, like Krishna Sister mentioned, and as Swami has already guided. But with CSR also comes along with soliciting CSR funds from corporates, there are also certain very important responsibilities that we have to fulfill as an institution. So generally, the principle of corporate social responsibility requires that corporates engage in social projects, socially relevant projects, which may be related to education or health or sanitation or several other, women's empowerment, and several other such causes. What happens is that as corporates, as profit-making organizations which are answerable to their shareholders and also answerable to the board of directors as to how the money has been spent and how it has been utilized, it becomes important for us as prospective beneficiaries to be able to provide them complete and very factual, objective utilization data. So that is something that we are already working on a template, which will be shared with all the leadership teams across the schools and the university, wherein it devolves on us that once we avail of corporate funds for our projects, we should be able to also show them the impact of those funds. See, they want to be assured that whatever money they are investing is well spent and well utilized, and there is a desired outcome or impact from that. So that is the impact. The impact side of it is what we have to demonstrate and also factually submit to the corporates who are supporting us in this endeavor. So that is one key aspect that all of you should bear in mind, especially at the university level. Students who are on the verge of completing your graduation and or post-graduation. These are aspects that will have to be looked into going forward. A lot of systematic data collection and tabulation will have to be done, and there will be reports that will be submitted to these corporates, because it's not a one-time thing. It's not that we associate with the corporate this year and then forget about them the next year. It has to be a long-term engagement and involvement, and that can be sustained only when there is a give and take. So there is as far as giving is concerned, yeah, there is a giving from their side in terms of an investment into our system, into the potential and the outcome that we are promising. And the giving from our side is actually the demonstration of that. So this is an important aspect to corporate social responsibility. Whereas in the case of individual donors, alumni and devotees especially, who already understand Swami's mission, who have seen Swami's mission over the last 5 decades or 6 decades, they don't really, they are not, they, of course, they would love to see desirable outcomes. They would love to see students doing well in their student life and after, but there are no stringent regulations or expectations there, unlike in the case of corporates.
Sairam sir, there is one more question. As you're a member of this even program, what is your practical experience and what is your input to provide education for every child, one who is needed in our country?
Can you repeat the second part, please?
Yeah. And what is your input to provide education for every child, one who is needed in our country?
Okay. So the first part of your question asked about my experience in the Each One Educate One Foundation. So like I mentioned earlier, it's been a very enriching experience because we are now still associated with Swami's education mission, but in a slightly different role, not as a student, like what Krishna sister mentioned. As a student in those days, we were not aware of how this was all happening. We all looked up to that most compassionate and loving father figure, who was there for us every day, every evening. And we were, you might have read this in our Sadhguru's talks that he used to give in the ashram. You might have come across this particular statement that he has made, that for Swami in this mission, the students are his VIPs. So that's what we were in those days. We were his VIPs sitting there at his lotus feet and enjoying. We were the beneficiaries receiving and enjoying. Today also we are enjoying today also we are receiving learning, we are receiving a lot of wisdom in a different way. But there is also something that has added on to this process, which is a responsibility. And it is not a responsibility in the traditional sense of doing a duty or something like that. It is not your job responsibility. We don't approach it as a job description or a job responsibility, but a responsibility that has sprung up from the heart. So it is that seed of gratitude that Swami sowed in us 40 years back or 50 years back or 30 years back, and that has sprouted, that is growing now into a plant or a tree, depending on which stage we are in. And so the experience for us to be associated in this way, it's very enriching, it's very fulfilling and satisfying for us. And that's the reason why we don't miss our corporate careers, we don't miss the job that we were doing, we don't miss the if I were to express it in slightly commercial terms, we don't miss that package that we were getting or whatever. That's no longer our focus. That's no longer the goal for us. So it's a much higher goal that Swami has actually blessed us with. In fact, a few years back in 2019, Swami had called our team to Gulbarga. Those of you who were present there would know that he had called us, the even team and the council members, to Gulbarga for an interaction before the alumni meet. And the first question he asked is, are you helping them or are they helping you? So this was a question he asked, and that them and they referred to all the students. So that was the question he asked us: are you helping them or they helping you? And our answer was very obvious: Swami, they are helping us. And that's a fact, because there are so many different ways in which we are being helped to learn plenty of lessons. Like we said, back then we were the VIPs out there. We were sitting there and receiving and benefiting. Today we are receiving and benefiting in a different way. And that's what Swami also meant. That's what we also felt, that all of you are also helping us.
So there's one more last question. It is very important for our institution students who have passed out to contribute to need of other children's education. Is there any step that is taken to get our alumni in touch with us to take this mission forward?
Again, very, very pertinent question, very, very relevant. And it's actually a burning question right now. And we need a lot of support and help from all of you, especially the students in the university, and of course the students in the Gurukulam as well, in grades 10 and grade 12, etc. We need a lot of support from you in maintaining this contact with the alumni who are passing out, who are for whatever reasons leaving the institution and pursuing either higher studies outside or some other pursuit that they have in mind. But it's very important that through you, we stay connected with them. We keep them also connected with us in whatever way possible. The first step is to stay connected. We can talk about contribution, etc., as step 2 or maybe even step 3, because there are so many who are going out to pursue some other form of studies which they are not able to pursue here, or for what, based on their interests or choice. There are so many of them who are still studying outside. And then there are others who have just begun their working life or their careers. So we do understand all that. But what is important is to stay in touch, to be connected. In fact, the Oneness app that Swami launched recently is meant precisely for that. In terms of what steps have been taken, some of the students in PG might be aware of this. Yeah, they would be aware of this. Is that after some guidance that we received from Swami last year, we did some I would actually say gold digging. We dug into the records of all our students from 12-13 onwards, 2012-13 onwards. And I mean it when I say we did some gold digging, because that's a gold mine. Our students are a gold mine for us, not for the literal gold that I'm referring to, but by virtue of being products of Swami's institutions, they are a gold mine, for the entire world. And we dug out a lot of details about all our students starting from 12-13 onwards. We listed them out. I think more than 3,500 students have completed their education either in grade 10 or grade 12, or even in as graduates under the Center for Human Excellence earlier. More than 3,500 of them who have all been collated into a list. That list has been shared with some of the senior students out there in postgraduate, along with whatever data and contact details were available. And it is actually imperative for each batch to try and reach out to their peers, to their batchmates, their friends, maybe one batch above, one batch below, and their own batch. But a lot of onus lies on all of you as well to help us in this process. We can have a separate exclusive meeting with some of the seniors in this regard. We can formulate a strategy, we can formulate an approach. I'm sure Swami himself has guided all of you in this regard as well, and you must be doing your bit also in this direction. It's a question of now collecting all our efforts and going about it in a very cohesive and coherent manner.
I thank from the bottom of my heart for taking your time from your busy schedule, sir. It was such an informational talk. We did not know what is going on in the even though we are part of it. From now, we came to know what is going behind the scene. To educate one child, it is so many steps should be taken. Now we make sure that we take the baby steps to be a part of this even foundation scheme. And we are very grateful for providing us with such information talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us an opportunity.
Yeah, you're also very welcome. And we look forward to working together with you.
We are so blessed to be a part of it, sir.
Yes, all of us.
We'll end the session with prayer. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Once again, I thank both of you, sir. Akka, thank you.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.